Hello and welcome to Uncle Nearest Pride Celebration. This is the first of its kind for us. We are so excited to have you. You guys have seen me before. My name is Ian. I am one of the brand ambassadors in Chicago, and I'm lucky to be joined by my other brand ambassador in Chicago. So again, my name is Ian. I'm going to hand it over to Chasity and let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Chasity from Chicago. Uncle Nearest brand steward as well. Welcome. And we're joined by three guests tonight, and we're going to start with Atlanta. Tiff,
hi.
Who are you? Where you be? Tell the people who you are.
I'm Tiffanie Barriere. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Some that know me as the drinking coach, because we need coaches to drink, right?
Yeah, we do.
My brand and my company focus heavy on education. Not only from the bottle, but down to American history, the hands behind it, and just a showcase of fun.
Yeah. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to see you.
Yes, you too. And who else is joining us tonight? Please introduce yourselves. Ambrosia.
Hi, I'm Ambrosia. I'm here in Chicago. I run a downtown location called the Northman Beer and Cider Garden. I'm also a buyer for the company, so I have a few restaurants that I'm doing the buying for, and then I also run a production cider company as well.
Nice.
Cool.
Awesome. What's the name of your cider company again?
Nice.
The Northman Pub Cider.
Awesome. Thank you. And now I'm going to hand it over to Kaden. Kaden, please introduce yourself.
How's it going? I'm Kaden. I currently live in Brooklyn, New York, and I'm the assistant general manager for Spin. I also worked at the Chicago location, so people in Chicago are probably a little more familiar with that.
Yeah.
And then I spent a year down in Austin opening up a location. Now I'm here in New York.
Very cool. And, you and I were connected by Safia Goodwin, who is just an all-around badass in the industry. Where did you guys work together?
We worked at the Chicago Spin.
Oh, you worked at Chicago Spin together?
Yeah, Safia was there from the very, very beginning, and then I think my first day there was on the grand opening day, so we worked for a couple of years together.
Okay, cool. Very cool. And so now, right now, what are you doing in your position?
Currently, well, since we're closed right now, but I'm the assistant general manager there. I'm mostly focused on training. I do a lot of the training development programs. So I work with a lot of the key staff. I train managers. One of the things I got to do was go down to Austin, Texas to open the new location. I was there for about a year.
Oh, wow.
And got to train that staff and get everything going, which was a crazy experience. It was super fun. So that's my focus is mostly on the development side of things. I really enjoy doing that. And then I've been lucky enough. I got to go out to San Francisco for a little bit to help doing that. In New York, came in and got to help work on revamping the company's training program. So it's great.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, that is our panel. We're still waiting on Rawnica. We're working on a little bit of technical difficulty, so I do apologize. But what we're here today to talk about is queer issues in the industry, queer life in the industry. What does it mean to live in a queer identity and also work in what is predominantly a white cis world, which I am very much a part of and kind of balancing in between those two things. So first to start, I guess I wanted to ask, can we talk about identity? Like how do we broach the subject of LGBTQ plus or QPOC identity in a work environment? And
I feel there's a few ways to approach it. We are in a very it's probably the first time I've seen in a few days a beautiful climate, because there's a lot of megaphones out and what's said is slightly heard. There's not a lot of action, but there are some words out, and a part of our community wants to be seen for more than what they are sexually. We want to be seen for what we do, and making great cocktails and having great programs, and how we identify is needed clear. But now we have to make that clear because there's so much disrespect out there. And I love, Kaden, I love your shirt. Like, I'm like, yes, I want a pronoun shirt, because now we have to wave it out. I'm a Black woman, and I don't have to introduce myself as, hi, I'm Tiffanie, the Black woman, because you can see it. And being clear, we now have to say that. It's, I'm indifferent. You know, I'm she and her, and I don't feel the need to have to do that all the time, but now I have to, because there's so much disrespect out there. So we have to just make it clear. I'm loving that a lot of people are asking respectfully what our pronouns are, and if we keep that up, I think some more respect will start to happen.
Very cool, and very well said. Ambrosia, Kaden, do you have anything to add to that?
I've been pleasantly surprised with
the pronoun.
Well,
You can go ahead.
We'll give it to Ambrosia, then we'll move on to Kaden.
I've just been pleasantly surprised with the generation that's coming up. I started to turn into a curmudgeon old man about the younger generation, but then I'll have people walk into the bar who will ask pronouns and be respectful and genuinely respect each other's space. And so I'm pumped for the next generation to be able to learn from what we're all going through and to be able to approach it in a way that we never thought of. And I'm pumped for that.
Very much so. Kaden, can I ask for what you were going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, like specifically the pronoun thing, it is always best to ask. I know that initially when I started using they them pronouns, I was much more into it now, so it was something that I specifically brought up right away when I was starting at a place, just so that everybody understood and I wouldn't have to go getting misgendered and correcting people. That definitely still happened all the time, but I think, you know, coming at it initially is helpful, and then other people, it's always just the best option to ask. For whatever reason, I think that's not the best option, but it is the most respectful option, and then you'll actually get the true answer from this person, and they'll probably be believed in that. It's always nice.
We are losing your mic a little bit, but I very much agree with what you had to say. It is something that, you know, we should feel more comfortable addressing, and just, you know, me being a little bit more innocuous in the world, you know, I walk around and I look very much not queer. I look very white cis. It's what I am. I can't change that, but it does present an issue where, you know, every day we have an opportunity to come out again. You know, are we going to come out in this conversation? Are we going to talk about that? Are we going to say something? And for the longest time, I really didn't know what to do. So my choice has been to be very vocal about it. I'm lucky that I have a partner right now, so I can talk about Nick. I can say, Nick, you can hear a male pronoun, and you can understand kind of what my life looks like. So I guess, does anyone else have a similar experience or have anything to add to that?
Yeah. What does queer look like? You know, like, and I'm just putting that question out there. Like you said, I look like, it's just like a guy, like a white man. I look like a Black woman. And to my other family and community who identify differently, be it alpha or transgender, there's a few aesthetics that show their sexuality. I've actually been challenged or troubled with people not knowing that I'm queer. Not that it mattered, but I've never had to drop my gay card. I'm not going to places where I'm like, oh, unless I'm with my girlfriend and it's like, oh, okay, it's, this, it's never been recently, and I'm kind of moving around. Recently, I've been asked in the past 3 or 4 years, like, oh, I didn't even know you were gay. And more so, I'm offended by it. Like, how am I supposed to, like, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to be like, hi.
Right. Like you were supposed to make an announcement.
Like, I'm Tiffanie, I'm gay. Yeah. There's no reason to do that. And so I feel like, and I don't want to, I hope someone can, Chastity's done me for years. I hope that, I feel honestly that I'm like a middle child. I feel like the older ones in our community never needed to talk about this. I was, just respectfully, why are we talking about our bedroom? And if you bring your partner to an event, that's cool. And then there's our generation, and then there's the younger generation that's like, let's go. Like, why are you not like screaming out your pronouns? Like, what? And so I feel like a middle child. Yeah. I'm like, well, so when am I supposed to, or why do I need to be in a space and scream out that I'm queer? I find it right now cool that we're coming to this point, but also confusing. Maybe because I just identify as Black girl, I don't identify, I don't have my rainbow tattoo, or like I don't have something that says she's queer, she's queer. I struggle with that, right. Honestly.
I struggle with it too, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah, I still struggle with it too. Mm-hmm. I get a lot of people like, when they find out, like, oh, I didn't know, and I'm like, okay, I'm just me though. Mm-hmm. I'm just me. Who I love doesn't what's the word I'm looking for? Doesn't characterize or doesn't
it's not the only
define
thing
who
you.
I am.
Yeah.
Right. Who I love. We all love someone. I just find it, really challenging and frustrating at times when you get those questions and, those.
Yeah.
You were going to say, Ambrosia?
All that.
I just love how Tiffanie put it in a generation category. I work with an older generation cis white male. That is everyone I've ever worked with. I come from the culinary background, and now it's all the same person, and it's never brought up. It's never a thing that's talked about. It's always just assumed on my end because I am mask presenting, but it's just not a thing we talk about. But then you have the younger generation. I recently had an employee come out to me because they felt that they could confide in me, one, but also to see me in a leadership position and to be able to have that conversation and to be embarrassed to tell the rest of the employees and to look to me as someone that could help them with that conversation was pretty cool. But the older generation just doesn't want to talk about it, period.
And in that conversation, has that led to a larger conversation with the rest of the staff and that person? Have they come out to more people, or are they still kind of
not yet? But we had an instance where we were sitting there having our shift drink after the shift, and this was very recently because we've been open. And one of their coworkers said a very archaic insult, okay. And it wasn't like fireable or write-upable, but it was still just inappropriate. And the employee that came out to me looked at me and just in the eyes and was like, "Can you please? I'm so uncomfortable right now." Yeah. And so I looked at the employee that said it, and I totally called them out without, outing the other person, but just made them feel ashamed for using language that was inappropriate. I was like, "Are you really going to talk to your fellow coworkers like that? Like, how are you going to do that?" And to have their back, knowing, I think, will give them more confidence in the future to choose to express themselves however they'd like to express themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Because support is all anyone needs. a great foundation of support to be able to talk to anyone and come out and whether it's your family, your friends, whoever it is. I've been so blessed to have such a great support network. My family, that's where my confidence comes from. And that's what allows me to be able to talk to people about my stories, is because I have that great support network. And it's so unfortunate that so many people don't have that.
It is. Very much so it is. And I don't want to take this to a lighter moment right now. Does anyone else have anything to say to that? Like, earlier on, before we started this conversation, Ambrosia brought up creating inclusive work environments. And I personally have been in really fantastic work environments in the industry. I started in a restaurant in 2012, 2011. And the person behind the bar who was teaching me was this amazing woman who was a self-described angry lesbian, separate but equal denominator.
What the hell is that?
Oh man, Anne was a lesbian and Anne was angry, but man, she was a great bartender, and she taught me. And she taught me a lot about how to like handle the bar, because she was no nonsense, but she was also just super fun. So is that how it started for other people? Like how did we all start in this industry? Like, was it a similar kind of environment?
Mine was kind of rough.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I remember being fired from a job. I remember going to pick up my paycheck. This was the third bar I worked in, probably my second year in of bartending. So I was about 22. Went to work to pick up my check, and my manager tells me, "Oh, I was told to let you go." And I said, "Well, why?" "Because you don't flirt with the male customers." That was their way of discriminating against me because I was a queer woman. And it's true. I didn't flirt with the male companions, and not because I didn't want to, because I'm very attracted to men, but because that's my job. It's my place of profession. And so, it made it very clear to me that the other bartenders were not working at the same level of professionalism that I was.
Yeah.
If I'm being fired for not flirting with the male customers, and so I knew what that meant.
Yeah,
they didn't like, who I was, and some of the customers that I brought in, because of course they were gay and visibly gay.
Well, that's a crock of bullshit, is what that is.
Crazy, yeah. Right? And have been harassed at other bartending jobs, or having customers tell my loyal clientele that was at my bar all the time, "Oh, she likes women. She dates women." I had several friends of mine come and tell me, "Hey, he's saying this about you." And, it was hurtful, because don't I give great service? Aren't I making great drinks? Why does it matter, if I'm a queer woman or some of my customers are queer? Why does that matter?
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
So that was earlier in my career, and working at certain types of establishments, I had to deal with that sort of harassment. Mm-hmm. But I wanted better for myself, and I wanted to work in environments that were queer, LGBTQ friendly, and so I just had to move around.
All right, and Kaden,
what type of have you all experienced anything like that?
I definitely.
You're shaking your head. Yeah.
I definitely have. I've been just asked. I consult often, and I flew out for a client, and we prepared for an event. I was there for about 4 or 5 days, and on the date of the event, I was told from the owner, "Do not tell them that you're gay. The men will be very angry. They're gonna flirt with you, but you know how guys will be. But don't tell them that you're gay."
That's terrible.
Yeah, it is.
I'm sorry. Like, I know that's it's of course it's terrible. It's given, but man, it just kind of makes me sad to hear it. I'm gonna ask Kaden and Ambrosia if you have anything to add to that. I would love to hear what you have to say before moving on. You there?
I think my mic.
Oh, good. There you are, Kaden.
Yeah, sorry. No, I mean, it's been since the beginning, over 10 years ago. Experienced much, but I remember a long time ago being sent home because I was very, very obviously queer looking.
Very obviously what?
Very queer looking. I was very, very much so. It was, you know, they were like, you can go early, you can go now. And I was like, why? No, the owner's coming in. And I was like,
that's terrible.
Obviously, it was a place. Yeah, it's a crazy thing.
Is this before Spin, I take it?
Yeah, this is a long time ago.
Okay.
Because I've been with Spin for about 4.5 years, and I stayed like it's a great environment. But before that, yeah, I mean, I definitely went to a decent amount of places that it was not. It was something that wasn't great, and it makes you, you know, it's like it's a tough thing to have to deal with that, and especially when you're young.
Yeah.
But you know, fortunately, I did have to look around and work a lot of places and find places that didn't treat people like that.
Very good. So, Kaden, just so you know, if I ever interrupt you or ask you to repeat yourself, we're having a little trouble with your mic still. It's just so I want to make sure that you're definitely heard. And for just a moment, we kind of jumped the gate with some pretty heavy topics. But I would like to just take a quick second, a little bit of a breath, and ask, what is everyone drinking tonight? Tiffanie gave a look. What's Tiffanie drinking tonight?
Tiffanie, what are you drinking?
I'm on brand. I'm on brand. I seriously just finished a beautiful cocktail class. The Zoom cocktail class is a thing I just finished, but I was talking to them about the man true love, and this just happened to be right there.
How crazy!
Yeah.
And I did it the John Dabby style and garnished it with the blackberries and the strawberry and the crazy mint. And right now I'm just sipping it neat in a mason jar like the lady that I am.
Sometimes all you need is like a neat sip. How about you?
I was done with the class and I'm like, yes, it's time. I need to sit and enjoy. So yeah.
Nice.
Very cool.
Nice.
Mr. Green in my glass.
Ambrosia, what's in your glass tonight?
Also on brand, but it's been a hell of a weekend opening up the Riverwalk. I will tell you what. So I'm on that 100 proof.
Hey,
all right.
And I drink it. It's not a cocktail. So I'm just drinking it straight.
You better have that whiskey glass going. Yes. Yes.
I usually drink cognac. This is I'm taking a break from cognac or Armagnac or any of the yaks or brandies because y'all know Brandy is my fiance. I'm drinking whiskey tonight, which is
she's a good girl. Brandy's that's a bad book.
How long have you and Brandy been together now? Actually,
we got engaged 2 years ago. I came out as a Brandy lover probably about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I think coming out as a Brandy lover in this industry, and especially in Chicago, was harder than coming out.
Absolutely. I was going to say, absolutely. This is a whiskey town. Being a Brandy fan is kind of tough. I am the Brandy king. I love Brandy. But I also enjoy whiskey, and I don't discriminate. I'll drink it all. But yeah, definitely need the 100 proof after this Riverwalk weekend. I understand.
Very good.
And yeah, so Ambrosia's working on the Riverwalk just in Chicago for some of you who don't know. how has that been, opening that back up in the midst of all this? And thank you, Stephanie. We all love Brandy.
Yes. It's been challenging.
Yeah.
Not only opening up Lightfoot said go, and we had like a few days to do it, much like most of what's been happening, but making sure that we have the systems in place in order to, I love all this Brandy love, it's making me so happy. But also making sure that everyone is safe. That is, as a hospitality professional, making sure people are the safest that they can be is internally stressful. And then making sure that you can implement it on such a scale like downtown Chicago, it's been pretty stressful. But I think we're doing a good job, and I think that everybody can feel confident and comfortable enjoying themselves and enjoying the space without having to worry too much about the pandemic.
Oh, very good. And Kaden, are you drinking anything tonight?
Yeah, it's just a friend of mine recommended trying to make golden milk spice infused honey, so I did that, and then some lemon juice and kombucha because I don't actually drink anymore, but you could definitely some if you wanted.
I mean, I have just gotten into golden milk, and it's like it's just so good. It's just so delicious.
Good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's how I've been doing my coffee sometime. Chastity, what's in your glass?
I'm having a little, I call it summer water. So, rosé.
Hello.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Summer water.
I had a shot of whiskey.
Okay, you lubricated the gears. You got it going. I gotcha. I understand.
Yeah, I got it going with whiskey, but then So happy Pride again, everybody. Everyone is watching. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Cheers. Happy Pride. Well, other than me and Kaden are the only people who mix something up. I actually have I call it a Southern Cola, which is mostly Uncle Nearest, and then Averna and a little bit of Italian sweet vermouth, and topped with soda, and it tastes like a nice little bitter cola.
Delicious.
Cola moment.
Why not?
Yeah, you use it. Take it. It's called take it off.
Mostly Nearest. Like there's still quantity here. Just mostly Nearest.
Mostly Nearest. Well, okay. There are actual measurements. It's 1.5 Nearest. I don't know. Okay, you don't want to just explore, and yeah. It's delicious though, and everyone should try it. It's a great summer drink. All right, we're gonna try to bring Rawnica back in now. We're still having some trouble with Rawnica. I'm sorry, guys, but I wanna open the floor a little bit.
Rawnica.
I know I miss Rawnica. She was so excited to do this. She and I had been planning a lot of it together, so man, we wish she could be here. But I would love to know, Kaden, can I ask you about being sober in the industry? When did you make that decision?
It's been it was November 2015, so about a little over 4.5 years. And it was definitely a very big change. But honestly, it's people think it's crazy, but I love working in the industry. There's nothing else I'd rather be doing. And as long as you're honest about it, like I don't see any reason to not be upfront and honest if it comes up, which it definitely does. But I've been lucky enough to work with people who, after I let them know, are respectful, and it doesn't end up being a big thing. But initially it was a little harder, but it's just like any other job to me. So I think that it works for me, but I know that it would be something that wouldn't necessarily work for everybody. But and I feel like I know more and more people in the industry that are getting sober too, which is great. And it's also nice to be able to, be there in that capacity for people if anybody has questions or needs any experience or any resources like that at all. But yeah, I mean, it's honestly it's been great. I think I've just been lucky enough to work with some really great people.
And we need more sober voices in the industry. I mean, they exist, and it's more than possible. And it's, honestly, probably better for some of us to talk about sobriety in a more honest and open way. So I applaud you for that. That's not only is it awesome that you're doing it, it's awesome that you're so vocal about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, we were talking a little bit about inclusive work environments a little bit before, and Kaden, you're in management. I would love to hear, and you work for Spin. Spin has been traditionally a very gay friendly, very queer friendly space from what I've experienced in Chicago. Can you talk about how, as a manager, you're balancing that inclusivity for your staff?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that drew me initially to Spin. As soon as I walked in, it was a very diverse staff, and it is like part of the company vision is there's a lot of artists on staff. Like here in New York, I think probably 99% of my staff are some sort of artist, mostly performance artists here. And there's a lot of queer staff, which is great. And I know it's different each location, but that is something that is, pretty widely accepted across the board, and everybody. It's great for me. I enjoy it. Opening a location is great because in Texas is interesting because it's Texas, but being able to be somebody who's openly queer, I think in management is something that like representation is important, and I think people feel like they can do it's a nice example to look up to in some ways, and feel like they'll be heard and that somebody understands the things that they might have to deal with. And it does involve a lot of education, but I feel lucky that I can help even with training other managers, be like, this is how this should be dealt with, this is what you should do, these are things that are important, so that people feel comfortable, because I think it's super important for people to be happy and comfortable when they're going into work.
Yeah. And, I'm just realizing now, I'm actually looking at 3 other people who have managed behind the bar. So I open that question to you too. Like, Ambrosia, you've been at Northman. Did you manage at Fountainhead? I know you're managing there now.
I did not.
Okay.
I was smart.
Okay.
Management sucks.
Yeah, it's hard. And Tiffanie, you opened up One Flew South, which I can't even imagine the extra layer of not only managing a bar and managing a bar staff, but also being in an airport with all that has to come with. Can you speak on that for a bit?
I don't remember. No, I'm just trying. It was insane. I don't know what and how we were doing what we were doing. We are still currently the busiest airport in the world. I just heard numbers like a few weeks ago, even after pandemic or while we're warming back up, we're still the busiest airport in the world. And I was running the #1 airport bar in that space, and it was just insane. We focused on service, speed, smiling. Like, if you didn't smile, I wouldn't hire you. But it was all about service. You couldn't have a bad day. If you had one, I sent you home. But it was a beast, and I definitely I don't know how we did it. So I don't know. We just being consistent. That was the key. And I trained my staff to stay consistent. And I allowed my staff to have bad days, because if you have a bad day, how can you serve? And the airport does not close. We are 365 all holidays, 24 hours. The restaurant wasn't, but we were definitely 365 and definitely holidays. And the best thing people want to do during the holidays is travel and have a cocktail. It was insanity.
Yeah.
But consistency was our thing, and allowing my staff to have a balance, because we had a 7-day-a-week, 3 shifts offered. You know, we just had to keep it up. And we drank a lot after work, a lot.
I can imagine. I mean, and only fair. That's so much.
I mean, I had to. We had to. It was like the after work shift was. We call it a shift, literally. Like, where's the after work shift?
Shifty.
We had to.
Well, and I can tell you, I've been to One Flew South pretty recently around Christmas time. It was the last time I was there, and I've been there a few times. It's still consistent and it's still fast. You know, that is definitely the tenet of that place. So kudos to you. Good. Very good. But I kind of want to know, you know, we're talking a little bit about what the industry is now, what we're doing right now. But I'm going to start with Ambrosia, go to Kaden, go to Tiffanie. Can you tell me kind of where you came from and lead to what you're doing now?
Yeah, I came from food. I came from the culinary end. I went to culinary school as a vegetarian. They loved me.
I bet they did.
But I just kept going and kept getting in their face, and I felt the confidence to be in that world. Then I opened up a restaurant out in Western New York, and I actually won my first bartending job on a bet. And then I started bartending and fell in love with it. And I worked in some pretty questionable places. My favorite thing that I would hear consistently was, "Oh, you're into women? Me too. Can I watch, or can I join?" Like that's we can all eye roll at that one. But that was pretty consistent. And then just kept working hard and moved back to Chicago after being in Toronto for a little while, and just found my place with the company that I'm at. And they've always treated me well and listened to what I want to do. And everything that I've been able to do since then is just from them listening. And I was able to open up a bar that was an unofficial gay bar, to be honest.
Northman?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah, that was an unofficial gay bar.
And just like have my friends around and have good company and express myself in the way that I wanted to. And now going forward with the cider company with the same company and going in and ownership of that, I've just been able to find that support and find that system and leave all of those ignorant haters behind and kind of surround myself with that support and flourish.
And I have to ask, what was the bet?
I
have to know.
So I was on a bar crawl, and the person that I was with said that the door guy was the owner. And I was like, no, there's no way that that's the owner. And he was like, yeah, that's the owner. And I was like, watch, but it's not. So I asked the bartender, I said, hey, are you hiring? And he said, yeah, I think we are. Let me give you the owner's number. Won that bet. Next morning, I was face down, hung over, passed out. And I get a phone call from the owner, because apparently I gave him my number too. And he was like, hey, can you come in later? Like, I'm short on staff and you can bartend, right? And I was like, yeah, sure. I get called in, and I'd called my friend before, and I was like, all right, how do you bartend? Like, what is this? Like, what do I need to know? And they schooled me for like 15 minutes. I'm like writing down all these notes of like what you do to bartend. And I show up, and they just like give me a church key, and I go behind the bar, and I just bartend, which isn't too far off from being a chef. You just have to smile more, and talk to people more and not yell at them. And he was like, "Great, you're hired. When can you start?" I'm like, "I already did." So then I just gave up the chef life and went completely into bartending because you make a lot more money.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I have to ask, so how different was being behind the bar from being in the kitchen? Like realistically, honestly, you know, it seems like two very different worlds. It seems very similar to some. What was it like for you?
In the back of the house, it's much more male dominated, first and foremost. Front of the house, you typically get a lot more women bartenders with male managers, if I'm talking like general stereotypes. So that's a different environment completely of the aggression, the language that you use to each other, the toxic masculinity stuff that comes along with that. But also you're most cases you're in a closed environment, so you're not on the stage, you're not performing. And another thing that's different is that you don't see the immediate results of the art that you've created or the experience that you've created for someone. You don't get that feedback. All you get is a server coming to the back and, you know, bitching about this or that. And so you don't get that immediate recognition. So there's a lot more drinking and a lot more like being upset about not seeing what you do and how it goes out. And at the front of the house, you deal with customers face to face, which it has its own challenges, but you get to see the gratification that you're giving, which me as an extrovert, I liked that much more. The thing about the front of the house though is you can never hide. You're like a tiger in a trapped cage. You're always on, and so that's a different kind of exhaustion than back of the house where you're dealing with hot flames and knives and you're juggling it all at the same time, and it's very physically demanding, much like bartending is, but it's a lot less dangerous in general. But yeah, so I miss it. I tend to favor my kitchen staff a little bit. I'll go back there and just be like, "Hey guys, like, I miss you. I miss being back there," because there's this camaraderie. Yeah. But I've really focused on making sure that the front of the house and the back of the house are the same part of the team, being on both sides and knowing that you can't do one without the other and vice versa. And there's no reason to take it out on either side, that we're all working really hard and trying to switch over that tip disparity and really bridge that gap and make the restaurant itself as a whole, which is very important to me, seeing both sides.
Yeah, having both of those experiences kind of makes you perfect for management. You can stand between both of those spots and make them harmonic, if you will.
Try to.
But I try to, exactly. Yeah. But Kaden, how about you? How did you get started and how did you get to where you are now, you know, working for Spin in management?
Actually, it's funny because I also started in the kitchen. I'm originally from Michigan, but I moved to Chicago in my early 20s and started, you know, working as a line cook and worked in the kitchen for a couple of years and ended up moving over to the front of house side of things. Probably partially because it is very different, but I would get super bored in the kitchen. I am an introvert, but I like to talk to people. And in the kitchen, if you're trying to make conversation, other chefs don't necessarily want to chit chat all the time.
No.
So I moved over to the front of house side of things, and I worked at a lot of different places in Chicago. Just serving. I started at bar backs, I started bartending, and I worked for a couple event places also, so I got to bartend at like weddings at museums and stuff like that, which was super cool. And then I started grand opening at Spin, going in as a server, and ended up passing food, which is funny. But then I got, you know, hired on there and served there for at least a year and a half, and then, you know, moved up and started doing the event stuff. So the event lead, banquet captain, moved into management. It was great, and agreed when I took the step into management. agreed to go move down to Austin for that location. So I did that. I managed Chicago until that ended up happening. And then, you know, it's been a year in Austin, Texas, managing, and then moved back up here to New York. I've been here for just over a year now.
Awesome. And what year? When did you move to Chicago?
I was probably 22, so about 9 years ago almost.
Okay, cool. So we were kind of just around the same time we were moving to the city. And how did you like Austin? How was that year in Austin?
Austin.
Besides hot, it was hot. I know it was hot.
Yes, I'm not a fan of hot weather, but there was like a lot of really great things and a lot of not so great things. It is a lot smaller than Chicago, so that was hard for me as somebody who takes public transportation and is used to being in a city where everything is convenient. That was a big change. But the city, I mean, it is like a super cool downtown. It's an interesting, you know, they have a great bar scene down there. It is super white compared to Chicago. It's like crazy. So that was strange to me. And, you know, people are always like, oh, Austin's the most liberal city in Texas, which is true for Texas. So it's like, I'm like, yeah, but Chicago is way more liberal than any.
I've spent a lot of time in Austin, and Austin is, like you said, it's a liberal city in Texas, but it's still Texas. Like, that's still an element in which Austin exists.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely enjoyed it. I think it's a wonderful city to visit, but for me, it was not anywhere that I wanted to stay living. But you know, it was really great to be able to spend it.
Yeah, and now you're in Brooklyn, which is a great place to live.
Yeah. No, I love, and you know, I got to move up here, which is so nice to be back in a city, and I absolutely love it. So.
Great. And Tiffanie, I mean, you have one of the most interesting bios in the industry, in my opinion. Tell us about what you've done. Where have you come from?
We know the One Blue South story. Like that's, you know, we were great. We killed it. We crushed it. We won. But I have a similar story to Ambrosia. Before I worked at One Blue South, I worked for Longhorn Steakhouse. I had worked in casual dining, and I was thrown behind the bar, kind of by accident. The bartender was like, this is, you know, I almost tell my age, but when you could still smoke at the bar and you learn how to cap the ashtrays and stuff. And my bartender at the time, you know, just got a little too wasted at the night shift. And my manager was like, go bartend. And I'm like, what? And I only really bartended like for myself and for my family. And like, you know, I don't know how to make a cocktail for the white people. I don't know what to do. I was like, I don't know how to make a cocktail like that. Besides making it with cognac or like, I just didn't know, but I knew how to make it balance and work. I did that shift. I made a pocket full of change, and he's like, you no longer serve. And I'd only served her about 6 months at that time. I got that job kind of by just trying it out. Like, let's work in a restaurant and see what that's all about. I had just dropped out of college, so I just thought, you know, this is cool. That's what you're supposed to do when you drop out of college, go work in a restaurant and do the, I didn't know. So I worked for Longhorn Steakhouse for 4 years. It was incredible. Corporate dining, I suggest for anyone who even wants to be where the quote unquote the level we're on. Casual dining was beautiful. 10 steps of service, knowing how to check in. Like you served crappy food, but you served. You know, you were taught how to do things and proper side work and be a team. And some of those businesses have great benefits. I had a 401k every year on my anniversary. You got like a watch, or you know, it was kind of cool. So it was neat. My girlfriend at the time worked at Applebee's, and she read on Craigslist that there was a listing for a fine dining restaurant in the airport. And I'm like, bullshit, that doesn't exist. So this is the airport. So she asked me if I could take her there and drop her off for the interview. And because it's the airport, you just can't drop somebody off at the airport. So unless you make these loops. And so I decided to wear a dress and pretend like I was getting on a flight.
You put on your camo?
I put on my travel clothes, and I got dressed while my girlfriend went for the interview, and went and sat at some other random restaurant bar and just sat there waiting for the interview to happen. And her interview was going pretty long, and when I walked by to check on her, because it was like down this dark hall, HR was like, "You're next," and I was like, "Okay, like whatever." And I interviewed with Chef Dwayne and Jerry Slater and Todd Richards, and it was similar to this conversation. Like, we were just talking. I was like, "Hey," they're like, "Hey," and we chatted about culinary for one, and my pride for being a Southern woman is that we're born culinarians, and so I knew everything. And I had a business card that I had created for myself, just being at the bar. You work in casual dining and you want to hand somebody your phone number. I had a business card. And my then girlfriend and I were driving home, and on my drive home, I got a call from them, and they're like, "Hey, we want you to come back." And I was like, "Okay." They did not hire my girlfriend. Funny story, I got her the job 2 years later to work with us.
Okay.
It was crazy. We were not dating then, but I was like, "You want to work here? We're busy. We need help." And then I worked at One Flu for that time. They hired 25 bartenders for opening. And in the first 3 weeks, we fired 17 of them. And I remained head bar from that point.
Lord, talk about a culling. That's crazy.
Nuts.
Yeah.
That's to me.
So I have one thing I would really like to talk about before the end of the night is, we're all people and we're all professionals in this industry. We all have goals, wants, and desires. Be it a queer issue or not, and I'm gonna pose this question. I'm gonna go Kaden, Tiffanie, Ambrosia this time. What do you want to see change in this industry from your experience in it? What do you want to see? What is something that you didn't have as a young professional that you hope we can create for the future generation? Starting with Kaden.
Something that I think would be really great if more places were doing is just more sensitivity training for specifically management teams. And I know that there are some places that either already do that or it's not necessarily as important of a thing, but there are people in management that don't know very much about any queer issues, but just allowing people to get more information about especially the newer generation coming up that seems to be considerably more fluid than past generations. But I think it's important to educate management about what is appropriate ways to support non-binary, trans staff, queer staff that might not happen if you don't go ahead and give people the info that they need. Because I know that in my experience, most of the managers that I came in contact with just had no idea. Even just, coming out and being like, "Hey, I'm a non-binary trans person. I use gender neutral pronouns." People are like, "What are you talking about?" And that, it's very hard to have to be somebody who's the employee having to explain that to their manager is not necessarily ideal. It's definitely how it, happened for me in a lot of cases. But it's great to be able to be on the other side and then have staff members who identify that way and be able to, provide them with things that I wish I would have had, even just understand. It makes everything easier. And I know that it's a challenging thing. And then and then as management, it's your job to also make sure that your staff understands. And so the burden is not completely on that one staff member to educate staff. And even something like pronouns, people have a lot of trouble with gender neutral they them pronouns. And I get that it's something that for a lot of people is very different. It's becoming more and more common now, but it's a simple conversation to explain it to somebody and then help them understand. And it's a lot of practice for people, but being able to do that and not put that on staff, I think is really important. Because I already as a new staff member, you're probably nervous. You don't know a lot of things, and on top of all that, to deal with these other things is it's a lot to do in place.
Mm-hmm. Have you had a manager that really I don't know if championed is the right word, but do you have someone from your past in your working life that really exemplified that was really good at that?
I've had a handful of really wonderful managers that were people that were not necessarily queer and did not initially understand some of the things, but being able to help them out a little bit. And then I've had managers that then they'll go do their own research, which is ideal, and then definitely were very supportive and championed me as a person, helped take that burden off of me, which was that's something that completely changes a career path, I think. But yeah, I've had a handful of really great people that I worked for like that. But most of them were not naturally like that, just because I think most of them were cis straight people. But it's important to me that I think it's also a great thing, even if you're not queer, have no experience, being able to learn new things and apply them because it's important. So as long as that's something somebody can do, I think that is, that's just super wonderful. It's been really helpful.
Great. That's awesome. And I'm so glad that you can be a voice in this moment for that, because we do need more management. I took a break in my industry life where I was working in restaurants, and then I thought I had to get a job at a consulting firm, and I was able to work in recruitment for queer staff, and having more voices that are empathetic naturally, that are sympathetic because they want to understand, or it's the next step. It's the bridge between us and this newer generation that is so ready to embrace these ideas. So I pose the same question to Tiffanie. What are you looking for that you didn't necessarily get in your professional upbringing?
I want to pause on if we still use the word craft or that style. I would love to see from the upper hand and brands and ambassadorship and training. I'd like my safe spaces to have better cocktails. I'd like my safe spaces to not just be, which of course we love to celebrate and turn up and have a party. Here in Atlanta, all of our safe spaces are either beer, shots, or martinis, which nothing wrong with that. But I would like that our safe spaces are well educated and possibly we can uplift some of those family members to want to learn how to make a Negroni or learn about Amaro, or on brand, have Uncle Nearest on deck, whether the cost is whatnot. But I'd love to go to my safe space and have a proper cocktail. And I don't know how Chicago is, and I know Brooklyn's a little different, New York's a little different, but I definitely want to party and have a damn good cocktail with, fresh squeezed juice and, not so much, I just want a better cocktail scene for our safe spaces and for it to be given a chance, and that's for clubs as well. I do live in Atlanta, so we do have some strip clubs, and I'm not saying that I want a Negroni while I'm at the strip club. However, if I did,
I wish I could have it. I'm from West Palm Beach, Florida, where there was a steakhouse / strip club called Rachel's, and it had a damn good steak. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah, Atlanta, our strip clubs are definitely known for great food. We have fantastic food and some decent wine lists. But I would truly love to see, coming from the distributors and the brands, and I know that some of us are trying to get away from identifying a multicultural role or whatnot, but I would love to see our safe spaces get better education.
Yeah.
That's something that I long for our community.
And to your point too, what I would love to see is our safe spaces to be more diverse in the kinds of environments they provide. Not only do we want quality, but I want a gay cocktail bar that isn't still yet a party. I want to have a dive bar that is just chill and cool, and you can get your Chicago special, a J Mama pizza and an old style, and just really, just have more diversity within those spaces. I
want that.
Yeah,
I want that so bad.
So Ambrosia, how about you? Like, what were you missing? What do you want?
Firstly, I'd just like to say that Kaden's point about sensitivity training, and Kaden, if you have any sort of resources on sensitivity training that exists that people can tap into, I would love to hear that. Not to put you on the spot, but if you do, that would be dope, because I would love to get some sensitivity training into part of our structure. I love that. And also having a diverse kind of scene. Like, I don't go out here in Chicago ever because I'm working all the time. I only go out when I'm on vacation. And the only lesbian bar in France is a club, and it's agricole rum and tonics all night long. I mean, I mean, they're tasty, but
I was gonna say that sounds like quality.
It'd be nice to get something else, but yes. So I am all here for that. But I wrote it down because I was listening, and I don't tend to remember when I'm listening. Something that I would like to see changed is standing up for staff over guests. It is our living room, and it is something that's very important to make sure that when somebody comes in that they feel welcome. Yeah. But too often I see bar managers and bar owners that are like, no, you're going to get groped because we need that money. Mm-hmm. And that needs to change immediately. Something that we put in our policy is that I don't care if it's your coworker. I don't care if it's your boss. I don't care if it is a guest. If somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, they're gone. Period. I don't want their dollars if they're going to be bigoted, gross dollars. If they're going to sexualize you or if they're going to make you feel uncomfortable, I don't want their money. And that's not the common thing. And I do get the business aspect of it. I totally understand that. Business is business. But too often we're taking the humanity out of business. And I think that we've seen this with everything that's been happening with COVID and a lot of the tone deaf stuff with the BLM movement, is that too often, which is systemic and a bigger problem, but something that we can tangibly grasp on our end, is that humans are worth more than the American dollar. And we need to be able to stand up for staff and protect them from not only the coworkers and the management, but the guests as well.
I mean, just the statement, humans are worth more than the American dollar, should be Joe Biden's campaign slogan, quite frankly. It really should. And you know what? We can see it so much more readily in a restaurant or a bar environment. We can see that behavior because it's lubricated by alcohol. It's a casual and familial environment. But you're right. I mean, most workplaces have a similar issue, and we have a mentality of the customer always being right. But the customer is not always right, especially when they're doing something wrong. And that's an excellent point. I'm really, really thankful that you said that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, for bringing that up. I'm gonna bring this initial conversation to a close for the evening. I want to say thank you to all of you, to Kaden. I say thank you to Tiffanie. I say thank you to Ambrosia. I say thank you, and to Chasity and Rawnica, who were my co-hosts tonight. We prepared this because we really wanted to have these conversations and talk about them. And the thing that I'm so grateful for that you guys brought to this table without even trying or without me even asking was, I wanted to make LGBTQIA plus QPOC people. I wanted us to talk about issues that we have because we are not only queer, gay, whatever it is, we are also people who work in this industry, who have a life outside of our work. And I really appreciate that you guys brought that to the table. Is there anything you guys would like to add to closing before I send us off for the night?
Ian, thank you for this. This is great.
Yeah, thank you, Uncle Nearest, and thank you, Ian, for putting this together, and thank you for making it a panel of different spaces and personalities and time zones.
Absolutely. Ian, this was great. You're awesome.
Thank you. I'm all right. So catch Kaden at Spin in New York. Catch Tiffanie. Are you still at One Flew South? Are you doing anything else you want to talk about?
I've been I left One Flew South 4 years ago, 4 years ago, but I am super independent. I work very closely to multiple brands, including Uncle Nearest.
She does.
Just catch me. You just catch me.
We'll catch you wherever you are, and you are doing so much, and it's really fun to watch you. Ambrosia, we can catch Ambrosia at Fountainhead in Chicago and at North Bend on the Riverwalk in Chicago. Next week, we're going to have Whiskey Dads come back. It's going to be a similar panel conversation about issues in life, issues in the industry. I invite you all to say good night, and then I'll cheers us out.
I just want really quick, Kaden, I love your ZZ plant in the background, by the way.
Oh yeah,
it's really cute.
Yeah. I just got the 2 of them. It's one of my many quarantine projects.
Wonderful.
I'm a plant dad, hard. So
I am not. I am bad at having plants. I am trying, and it's just not going well. But
is that a lily of the valley, Tiffanie?
Yeah,
Lily of the valley?
Yeah, peace lily. I lost my father on Thanksgiving, and so that's Dad back there holding it down. I've got multiple plants in the house, 2 monsteras, some flamingos, some birds of paradise. I live in a baby forest with a lot of alcohol.
Awesome. Well, to you guys, I'm going to ask us if we still have a drink. Let's
wait, let me catch up because a girl needed it.
I'm going to pause.
Ambrosia, best of luck on this open, girl. Keep it clean.
Thank you. We will.
My heart's with you.
So
thank you.
To humans, to us, and to the future, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for joining Uncle Nearest. Catch Whiskey Dads next week, and cheers.
Happy Pride, y'all.
Happy Pride, everybody.
Peace.